I want to get started with like the elephant that's been in every room since we all got off the plane to come here, which is this election. Probably not how you expect to start today, but I would like to hear from each of y'all. What is your view of the impact of this election on your pockets, on our pockets, on the financial world moving forward? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start because it doesn't matter. Let's just be honest. This year we had an election that didn't go the way most people thought it should go, right? Or wanted it to go. We've had past elections as well, right? But I would encourage everyone in this room to think about the market and its impact and its long-term viability. So when we think about what just happened, institutional money and advisors, we don't invest with politics. We invest in policies. So now that we know who's in office, now the institutional money says who's in office and what areas of the market are going to benefit from their policies. And so I would encourage you to not necessarily invest thinking with your heart, but invest for the long term because the market does what the market's going to do. We may have a flash in the pan like we did last night or the other, when the election happened, but the market is long term and you have to think long term about the market.
So break that down a little deeper. You said don't invest emotionally.
Right.
So go deeper on that. Like, what would be like an emotional reaction that we should avoid?
So the emotional reaction that we want to avoid is to, sell out of everything, and because we think that the market's going to hell in a handbasket, and we move all the cash because we fear what the market may bring. So I would encourage you not to think that way. I would encourage you to think long term. Over the long term, the market tends to go up no matter who's in office. Eventually, long term, it goes up. So that's what I mean by reacting emotionally.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off the back of what he's saying too. Kyle's saying if you've missed 20 of the last best days in the last 20 years and the largest 500 companies called the S&P 500, you probably would have made $0. 20 days in the last 20 years, you make no money. So making rash decisions is a guaranteed way for you to lose. And politics is a very easy way emotionally to make a decision and go, you know what, I don't like what's going on. I agree with the policy situation, but markets move on fundamentals. And what that means is if you're buying something that's undervalued today and it should be valued higher, it will eventually move that way. The short-term noise is going to move around. And many of you, if you've got your 401ks and things in order, you probably noticed that immediately your account should be up pretty substantially in the last few days. That's all just based on the short-term folks making moves. But as Kyle alluded to, we got to think longer term and pick and choose bets that'll make most sense. My last comment is a lot of people thought when Trump got in office the first time that he was talking real tough on China. All we heard was China, 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 right? Well, if you had said, if he's going to start messing with China, I'm going to get out of China. China was one of the best performing asset classes during his first term because what Trump's mouth said had nothing to do with the fundamentals of what was going on in the country of China at the time. Right. So we got to be responsible, work with somebody, work with a professional. If you feel like you're going to make a knee-jerk reaction, highly advise you not to do that. I'll pass it over if you have something to add.
Yeah, I would say you always want to stay focused on the long term, and you don't necessarily want to be the knee-jerk reaction person, whatever's on Instagram, whatever's going to be on the news, because there's still a process to what happens. I think we also really want to take that step back because I know yesterday the market was up 2% and the investors were excited. However, prior to yesterday, the stock market had 40 all-time highs this year. So we already were seeing all-time highs in the stock market. NVIDIA prior to yesterday had been up, 200 and something percent already? So we're like, if you were already investing your 401k and if you weren't making money, you was doing something wrong, okay? So I'm like, what was you investing in beforehand? So that should likely continue should most policies go the way that we expect, most of them. So that's one part of it, but investing is not all of your money. There are still tax policies, there are still tariff policies which may or may not get enacted. So those are other things. Where is inflation going? Where are they still going to cut rates? I think so. So there are different buckets that we have to pay attention to, and those things we need to see whether or not they get passed. Like, don't forget, the president isn't the only person that makes everything happen. Congress has to write the laws. The president has to pass those. So we'll have to see how those other buckets. As far as investing goes, please take the long-term view. That's only going to last 2 to 4 years. I say 2 years because midterm elections do matter, right? That is a very important part of it. But the investing part of it, you should have been making money already. Hopefully that does continue, and I think right now it probably should.
All right, so there's the macro economy and there's your personal economy. On the macro side, the numbers are good. GDP is going up, inflation's going down, unemployment is low. Let's talk about personal economy. Like the president-elect gets on stage and acts like everybody's out here hurting. What's your view on the state of Black America right now in your experience, and what should we be doing moving forward in our own personal economies to make sure that we improve that outlook?
So I'm going to throw out, that's a great question, first off.
Thank you. I'm a moderator for a
I mean, I think we as black men need to say great job a little bit more and smile on top of that a little bit more too. So I'm working on that myself. Inflation. Inflation is slowing down. It's not ever going to stop. We have to stay ahead of that inflation monster. The only way you can stay ahead of inflation is by taking some level of risk. You have to take some risks. I think we heard a lot of that in the last discussion because of how important it is. You cannot survive just taking zero risk. So for some of you here, maybe you got spooked and you've been in cash. I know my mother was a person who was really feeling unsettled, and even though I'm in this business and have been for many years, she still felt the need to move a lot of things over to cash and just feel safer. And so that safety, though, has cost her hundreds of thousands of dollars and sitting on the sidelines, waiting for what? You're gonna have the strength to go in when things are real bad. A lot of people have a hard time with that. So personal economy, just going back to the question, I think we all need to take stock of where we are right now, and don't be afraid to look and say, okay, what is my net worth right now? How much do I have in debt? How much do I have in assets? And what does my cash flow look like? Take stock. And I got a story I'll share in a bit. I don't want to hog the question, but I want to give some other folks.
Real quick, I want to invite the brothers in the back corner. There's 1 million seats up here. Maybe not quite 1 million, but if for folks that don't want to stand, if you want to stand, that's cool. But we do have a bunch of seats. Feel free, don't be shy. Make a move. So the question is personal economy.
Yeah.
What is the current state of, in your opinion, of where black men are today, and what should we be doing moving forward to improve our personal economy?
Yeah, so one of the stats that I saw was that when we think about Black America, only 4% of our wealth is actually in the market. When we think about white America, 30% of their wealth is in the market, right? If you're not participating in the market, you're missing out on growth for years and well into your retirement. One of the strategies that we use at Fidelity is we use what we call emergency protection and growth strategies. And it's designed specifically for those clients that are nervous about the market. So emergency, that's your emergency bucket, anywhere from 6 to 12 months worth of living expenses, depending on what you're comfortable with. And then you have your protection bucket. Your protection bucket, that's either protection of principal or protection of income, right? So you gotta decide, okay, well, how much do I wanna protect from the market? How much do I need to generate in income in retirement, right? And that bucket can be filled with lots of different things. And then you have your growth bucket. Your growth bucket is generally your 5-year plus bucket, right? You have somebody sitting on a large amount of cash because they're scared to be in the market. Think realistically, if I do have an emergency, am I gonna use all of this cash at one time to take care of this emergency? Or is it highly likely that I'm gonna use a little bit of it, right? Which could have filled my emergency bucket, and the rest of it could have been could have been in the market and earning income. So just thinking about your own personal ecosystem in terms of financial planning, that's a good strategy to look at when you're nervous.
My name is Kevin Matthews II. I'm the founder of BuildingBread, where my job is to make investing simple. I'm a former financial advisor, founded BuildingBread 14 years ago, and I was born and raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the home of Black Wall Street.
My name is Kyle Dews, and I'm a branch leader with Fidelity Investments. I've been in the industry roughly about 25 years. 18 of those years have been with Fidelity. I'm a certified financial planner. A couple things about me professionally. I've held just about every role that you could possibly hold, most of that being relationship management. Roughly about a year ago, I did move into leadership. Personally married with 2 kids, and my second job is being their chauffeur. You know, the pay is horrible, but the benefits are pretty good, so.
I've been there.
I think it started with like the elephant has been in every room since we all got off the plane to come here, which is this election. Probably not how you expect it to start today, but I would like to hear from each of y'all. Like, what is your view of the impact of this election on your pockets, on our pockets, on the financial world moving forward? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start because it doesn't matter. Let's just be honest. This year we had an election didn't go the way most people thought it should go, right? Or wanted it to go. We've had past elections as well, right? But I would encourage everyone in this room to think about the market and its impact and its long-term viability. So when we think about what just happened, institutional money and advisors, we don't invest with politics. We invest in policies. So now that we know who's in office, now the institutional money says who's in office and what areas of the market are going to benefit from their policies. And so I would encourage you to not necessarily invest thinking with your heart, but invest for the long term, because the market does what the market's going to do. We may have a flash in the pan like we did last night or the other, you know, when the election happened, but the market is long term, and you have to think long term about the market.
So break that down a little deeper. You said don't invest emotionally.
Right.
So go deeper on that. Like, what would be like an emotional reaction that we should
So the emotional reaction that we want to avoid is to, you know, sell out of everything and because we think that the market's going to hell in a handbasket, and we move all the cash because, you know, we fear what the market may bring. So I would encourage you not to think that way. I would encourage you to think long term. Over the long term, the market tends to go up no matter who's in office. Eventually, long term, it goes up. So that's what I mean by reacting emotionally.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off the back of what he's saying too. Kyle's saying you know, if you've missed 20 of the last best days in the last 20 years and the largest 500 companies called the S&P 500, you probably would have made $0. 20 days in the last 20 years, you make no money. So making rash decisions is a guaranteed way for you to lose. And politics is a very easy way emotionally to make a decision and go, you know what, I don't like what's going on. I agree with the policy situation, but markets move on fundamentals. And what that means is if you're buying something that's undervalued today and it should be valued higher, it will eventually move that way. The short-term noise is going to move around. And many of you, if you've got your 401ks and things in order, you probably noticed that immediately your account should be up pretty substantially in the last few days. That's all just based on the short-term folks making moves. But as Kyle alluded to, we got to think longer term and pick and choose bets that, you know, that'll make most sense. My last comment is a lot of people thought when, you know, Trump got in office the first time that, you know, he was talking real tough on China. All we heard was China, 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 right? Well, if you had said, oh, well, if he's going to start messing with China, I'm going to get out of China. China was one of the best performing asset classes during his first term because what Trump's mouth said had nothing to do with the fundamentals of what was going on in the country of China at the time. Right. So we got to be responsible, work with somebody, work with a professional. If you feel like you're going to make a knee-jerk reaction, highly advise you not to do that. I'll pass it over if you have something to add.
Yeah, I would say you always want to stay focused on the long term, and you don't necessarily want to be the knee-jerk reaction person, whatever's on Instagram, whatever's going to be on the news, because there's still a process to what happens. I think we also really want to take that step back because I know yesterday the market was up 2% and the investors were excited. However, prior to yesterday, the stock market had 40 all-time highs this year. So we already were seeing all-time highs in the stock market. Nvidia prior to yesterday had been up, 200 and something percent already? So we're like,
Want to do the same thing. I don't want to be the nurse that takes smoke breaks. Right? Personally, if you do, that's your choice, not mine. So I want to go towards that tree at all times because that was the goal. And if something's going to take me this way, that way, I hope I have the fortitude to stop for a second and stand on my hind legs and readjust myself.
I'm hoping to always be on my hind legs there, but I don't want to be a dog in the corner. Okay, I want to ask the audience a question. Just show of hands if you're over 60 years old today. If you're over 60 years old, show of hands. Okay, we got one in the back. Show your hands if you're between 50 and 60 years old. Okay, we got a couple 50-year-olds.
That's a lot more.
Okay, show of hands if you're in your 40s. Okay, if you're in your 30s. Okay, under 30. Okay, so we're going to go generationally now. We're going to start with the 50s and up. What sort of advice would you give to someone who's in their 50s and up with regards to retirement, with regards to financial legacy, and break down if there's stuff that you would also tell to the 40 and the 30-year-old?
So I'll start. Oh, go ahead. Kyle?
No, go ahead.
All right. Stand on your hind legs immediately. Time is on your side until it's not. Statistically, right, 20-year-old person could put $100 away and maybe reach $1 million, a month. 50, not a chance. And at 500 or 1,000, it may not be the case. So getting in front of someone and go ahead and taking stock that knows what they're doing. Does anybody in here know what a Monte Carlo simulation is? Ever heard of that? Does anybody remember Apple? So Steve Jobs got on TV, and he was like, I have this invention where you can have 1,000 songs in your pocket. We were all rolling around with burned CDs in the car, right? And for some of us, cassettes, and then we can go further back. I'm not the 8-track guy, not that guy. But, Steve Jobs did this 1,000 songs in your pocket, and everyone was wild. Imagine that your advisor or someone that you're working with is running 1,000 different negative and positive things on your situation to see how you would fare and give you a number on how many of those you won and lost. Crazy inflation, Trump's in office, all these different scenarios on your situation, and shows you that, hey, based on what you're doing now and based on the changes around you, you have a 90% chance of still reaching that tree. Wouldn't you want to know where you stand now and then how you can improve that number? Every one of the advisors, the Fidelity folks, the Morgan Stanleys I work with all of these firms. They all have this capability, and it's really inexpensive, in my opinion, to do so.
All right, so we hear Monte Carlo simulation, which is have somebody help you to do some forecasting on your financial picture based on the decisions you're making today. All right, let's go. I want to hear mix in the 30-year-olds and the 50-year-olds. Give me some generational advice here.
Yeah, so for the younger generation, I'll say the 20s, 30s, 40s, approaching 50, the luxury that you do not have that my parents had is that most of you will never see a pension, right? So it's all on you to save for your retirement. Companies have done away with it. So it's all on you to save for your retirement. There was a Wall Street Journal article that came out a few months ago, and it said, they titled it the failed 401k experiment. And the reason why it was titled that is because people are trying to go at it alone. They're saving in their 401k plans. They get really good at saving the money in their 401k plans, but when it's time to turn on that faucet and generate income, they make mistakes to begin with. And so they end up, because people are living longer because of medical advances, right? They end up running out of money. They end up having to go back to work because they try to go at it alone. So I would encourage everyone in the room. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old, you're 60 years old, and you're a day away from retirement, 65 years old. You should sit down in front of someone who knows financial planning so they can at least do an analysis to say, here's where you are, and here's some strategies to help you get to where you want to go. Or they could truthfully say, there's no way in heck that you're going to retire in 10 years unless you do these things, right? You want somebody who's going to tell you the truth, who's going to be honest with you, and say, hey, your lifestyle is not conducive to what you will be able to sustain in retirement. Or you're doing great, but you are making mistakes here. You're making mistakes here. Let's talk about ways to improve that. So that would be my advice to everyone in the room, not just generationally.
Yeah, so if you are on the younger end right now, we have some very, very difficult disadvantages, and I think those are quite obvious. I don't need to make everybody angry and state those from all the costs and how things have changed. However, to our advantages, we have some amazing advantages out there. For example, one of the reasons I left the financial field and quit my job, I'm not gonna say the words I said when I left that job, but one of the reasons I left those licenses and left all that stuff behind, because at one point they told me I could not speak to anyone unless they had $250,000 in cash. I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't help them invest. That ain't why I joined the industry for. And at one point, you couldn't buy and sell stocks unless it cost, $20 or $30 to buy and to sell. That sounds crazy now today. You couldn't just open up an app and buy and sell stocks for free. And there was a point, which sounds, y'all look at me like, what in the world? Like, there was a point where Robinhood did not exist. That was not a thing. If a stock was $1,000, you had to put up $1,000 plus a commission on top of that. You can buy stocks for $5 now. Like, that is an advantage right now, that you can buy and sell stocks on your budget when you feel like it. So that is number one, that you can start at whatever level that you are. And the second thing, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, ask anybody who is older than you, you are going to wish that you started 20 years ago. That is the one thing I can guarantee you. I can't guarantee you where the stock market is going to be in 20 years. But I can guarantee you that 10 years from now, you're going to look back like, man, I wish I had started 10 years ago. Everybody in here, I wish I invested in Netflix 20 years ago. Yeah, I wish I would have too. We all wish we would have. So don't look back and wish you would have done it now when you have the opportunity. The market is open right now. You got a choice right now, today. So whether it's an index fund or whatever it is that you want to buy, you have the choice to do it for the long term. And today in 2024, and it's been the case for a while, you can do it on a low budget if you feel like funds are tight.
Yeah. So I will say, in speaking about that, like Fidelity Investments, along with some other firms, it doesn't cost you to anything to buy and sell stocks on our platform. You can buy ETFs. We even have mutual funds that have 0 expense ratios. On top of that, the guidance is free, right? I'm say that one more time for the people over here. The guidance is free. Free, right? So there's no way that you should not be taking advantage of it, right? It just takes some bravery on your part, some vulnerability to say, look, I don't know what I'm doing. Here's what I'd like to do. I just need help doing this, right?
That's great. That's great. Real quick. Our sisters in the front, in the back. We have some seats in the front if you'd like. There's 3 seats right here. And then brothers in the corner. Y'all have been invited to come move. Y'all decided to stay. It's all good. That's part of the calisthenic workout today. Okay, you want to say something? Somebody.
Well, yeah. So I totally agree with what Kyle's talking about. It's going to cost you something, though. It's going to cost you at least your time.
Your time, yes.
Which I would say is one of the most valuable things we have, right? And I wanted to address just something else that we haven't talked about up here that's really important is just taxes. I know none of us are CPAs up here, but we do have to get into that conversation. I want to give an illustration that might help you understand how important it is that you don't just give money away for too much to the government. You want to talk about something that's, it tears me up when I see it. So if I take $1 and I double it every day for 20 days, how much money do you think I have at the end? So $1 goes to $2, $2 goes to $4, that's 2 days. I go all the way to 20 days. How much money do I have? Yep, just over $1 million. Just over $1 million. You can do it in the calculator. If you tax that dollar, though, in between each time to 20 days, 25%, how much money do you think I have now? It's less than $1 million, okay? Mm-hmm. So I give a little hint there. It's $72,000. You lost almost $1 million because you didn't pay attention to how much you were giving away to the government.
Right.
And it's sneaky. It's everywhere. It's on your phone bill. It's on everything. And there are ways. So when you're working with somebody and you want to maximize and look at those things, all the folks up here, I know, when they're putting investments and things together, we got to keep in mind how much we're getting to keep and not give away.
Right. That's great. All right, I'm going to make a controversial statement, and I want to get some reactions. I don't think everybody needs a financial advisor.
I agree with that.
And for some, it's because they really don't have enough of the work done in advance. Like I think if you haven't already figured out how to not spend all your money, hiring somebody to advise you to not spend all your money, to me, is not wise. It's my opinion. I'd love to hear your reaction.
I want to throw something.
No, I'm not. Let me keep preaching for a second.
I'm ready.
You've done some of the work already. You're not ready for an advisor just yet. If you have saved a really, really small sum and you want to turn it into a really, really big sum, and that might not be a realistic thing, you might not be kind of ready. So who needs a financial advisor, I guess is the question. At what point should you consider engaging one? And what would you look for in picking one?
That's a lot of questions. That's good.
Yeah, question stacking.
I'm going to answer one of them, probably. And then I'll pass it on. I'll answer it quick. I agree everybody needs financial advice, not necessarily an advisor.
Let me clarify before you go any further.
Okay, please.
Financial advice from somebody who's qualified to give financial advice.
Yes.
Not sitting at your workroom, lunchroom table talking to your coworker who is doing something totally different.
I agree. Hey, if I need heart surgery, I'm not going to a dentist, right? They're both doctors, but it's different, right? So yeah, I think we need advice. I think there are buckets that need to be filled first. You got a cash bucket, an income bucket, and a growth bucket. I think we kind of have something similar there. You got to get your cash flow situation in order. You cannot save if you spend more than you make. If you're in that bucket, you have to fix that. That is a internal thing. That is a you thing. We have to spend less than we make first. Then we can kind of move on to those next things. But that would be my advice, is just cash flow management. And that's, again, standing on the hind legs. I'm going to say that over and over again. Standing on your hind legs and stopping for a second. You can't just keep going. You have to actually put time in your calendar. The successful people in that room that you saw on the stage, D.L. Hewley, all these folks, I guarantee you look at their calendar, it's packed full of the most important things to them. And one of those things, I promise you, is time with their advisors or whoever, right? They're talking about, hey, I call this person, we do this. Those things need to be planned out and scheduled in the calendar.
And they have a little more money than us, too.
I'm sorry?
I would add, they have a little more money than us. On average.
It's a couple dollars. It's fine. It's fair.
Keep going. Whoever wants to answer.
So I'll take because there were several questions. Which ones? So no, I don't think everybody needs one all the time. I think there are certain phases in which, you definitely want, like you were saying, like the closer you get to retirement, especially the income phase, you might need one. If you are just looking for like budgeting, there are people who are not at the certified financial planner level that are just coaches that are specifically tailored to, let me help you with your credit score, let me help you with the budgeting piece, and they're very good at just that. And if that's just what you need help with, that person can help you do just that. Not any super sophisticated investing plan or anything like that, just helping you with your budget management, help you understand the savings and the not spending everything. And they just help you, coach you with just that. And that may be just what you need. So not the whole investing, saving, and the high level stuff. So not all the time. I don't think everybody needs one 100% of their entire life.
Kevin, would you say that that's a lifetime job or a short period of time?
No, I think that's like a phase, if you will, like a ramp up. Like, hey, I just got my first job. For the first 18 months, depending on what your financial upbringing was, Like some people need it for 6 months, some people need it for 3, some people need it for 2 years. Like have you had a job in high school where you understand money more, or is this your first time getting real money and you've never seen a paycheck before? So that it really depends.
I think your goals kind of determine that too, right? Like,
Yeah.
If I'm like, hey, I want to live comfortably, I want to do these things. I mean, Tiger Woods still has a coach. Why? Why does he have a coach? He's the best, going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. Still has a coach.
Yeah.
So I think that it depends on your aspirations too.
Oh.
Sorry?
Oh.
Don't mess with Tiger.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn. So and did you accomplish those goals or not? So all of that matters, and then you can graduate to that next level. So that answers the first question. What to look for when you meet your financial planner for the first time? You get in there, you tell them your goals, and you shut up. The question should be, though really what you should be observing is whether or not you are talking more or that person is talking more. That is the key. And the reason is you want that person to be listening to you. They don't know what your goals are, and that is the whole point of you being there. Okay, especially in the first meeting. They are there to help you reach your goals. In meeting number 1, if they are doing all the talking and you haven't told them anything, what are they talking about? Honestly, what are they talking about? I don't care where you went to school, none of that mess. It don't matter. You don't know what I'm trying to get to. The math ain't changed on none of that stuff. Everybody know the math. Everybody know the math. They all got CFPs. Okay? I ain't seen all the curriculum. I ain't took all the tests. They all the same. Okay? The difference is, and can they build a good relationship? Do you understand my goals? Do you speak my language? And if I ain't said nothing to you, you don't know it. Do you?
So we call that going through the discovery process, right? So first time you meet with someone, just to echo that, they should be asking you lots of questions. They should be asking you your personal goals. They should be asking your financial goals. They should be asking you they should be asking you questions like, if you had to tell me what your perfect retirement looked like, you should be able to tell them that, hey, I want to be on the beach. I want to be sipping cognac and smoking cigars and watching storms roll in, right? They should be that direct. There you go. They should be that direct in asking you questions and finding out who's most important to you, right? You're married, you got kids, you got grandkids, you're supporting your parents. They should be able to ask you all those questions, and it should be an open dialogue where you're doing most of the talking.
Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's a big part of your financial success that's on you. And there's personal accountability, there's websites, there's apps, there's AI now. I'm saying, like, we've got no excuse as to not having some steps that we take on our own before we land on the doorstep of a financial advisor. That's
Right.
Okay, I promise that y'all will have a chance to ask some questions. We're down to like our last 10 minutes. Let's start with the brother in the corner.
How much should you be paid and how should you be paid?
We're talking about employment?
You're talking about
Financial advisor.
as an advisor. Okay, so I can talk specifically about Fidelity because I work at Fidelity. The way that we are paid, if that's what you're asking, is that our guidance is free. Everybody you talk to is on a salary, right? We get quarterly bonuses based on net promoter scores, which tells you telling us how well that you've interacted with that advisor. Our mutual funds sometimes have fees, and then not always. We got some index funds that don't have any fees.
Right.
But then also, if you are one that you are hands off and you truly don't feel like you can manage your accounts on your own, then we charge a fee for that, right? Because we're doing the managing of the account. But if you're self-directed, you can trade for free. You can find mutual funds with low cost expense ratios. You can buy ETFs and a whole host of other things on our platform. So when we talk about a cost, I'll back up. Ours is free, but that doesn't mean that if you pay somebody else, they're not going to be worth the cost. Because potentially they're supposed to be helping you navigate taxes, which could save you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your investing. They're supposed to be helping you take on the appropriate amount of risk while giving you the appropriate amount of return based on the risk, right? All of those things could be worth paying someone to do. But at Fidelity, it's free.
Yeah, and I just want to echo that a little bit.
Yeah.
Financial advisors actually help people a whole lot. Like, I know I said not everybody needs one, but for folks that hire them, sometimes it's the person that just says, look, I know you want to sell all of your investments because your candidate lost. I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
Right? Like to have an accountability partner or a rational person to help bounce ideas off of. The studies have shown that it materially adds to your investment returns. But I would also say that whoever you talk to, make sure it's very clear all the ways that you're paying fees and all the ways that they're getting paid. Because even when something is free, there was some asterisks. I joked and I said everything has a fee, but you want to know all the things that you're getting charged for. Because I will tell you, one thing that's very unfortunate about the financial services industry is that this industry that we all love and hate at the same time will charge multiple fees for the same exact product, depending on which version of the product you buy. Imagine if you walk into a restaurant today, and then let's say Goose is right behind me. I walk in, I get a cover charge. Goose gets in free. I sit down and my French fries cost $5, his are $1. I sit down and my bill automatically has gratuity on it. His has none.
I know the manager.
That's because he's tall.
You don't know the
That
manager.
happens in financial services. So your question is a great one.
It's a valid question.
You want to ask, what are all the ways that you're getting paid and all the ways that I'm getting charged? And hey, is there a way for me to save money on this?
Absolutely.
For example, this word ETF, exchange traded fund, has come up a couple times. On average, those are less expensive than mutual funds that have active management. So maybe you incorporate some of that as an example. But taxes and fees really matter. And it's really incumbent upon us to ask the right question. Other questions in the back?
Yeah, so if you represent an organization, you got different levels of financial understanding. What's the best way to choose a financial advisor? Some people are here, some people are there, but they all invested. Like, what's the best way to do that where everybody concerns a level of understanding and being served?
I think the best way, same way you hopefully choose your medical professionals, the same way you hopefully choose attorneys if you work with attorneys, you have to interview, you have to talk to them, you have to see how they work, you have to see what their platform is, right? It takes a little bit of work on your end, right? But if you get it right at the beginning, then from that point going forward, it should be easy for you because they're the ones that are now doing all the work, right? So I would say take the time to interview, look at the different platforms that the different professionals work on, and then decide, okay, well, which one of these do I want to talk to first? Pick out 3. You're always supposed to do 3. You get an estimate on some work on your house, you're supposed to get 3. Go talk to 3 different advisors at 3 different firms and find out how they work. And then make your decision based on the information that you gather.
And I would add the personal relationship that someone mentioned earlier matters. That relationship becomes a vessel for communication. If you don't have a good relationship with that person, you're not comfortable bringing your whole self into the conversation, asking the questions that you might feel embarrassed to ask. I factor that aspect in as well.
Well, I was going to say, go ahead. I was just going to say, the most successful people have a process. So when you go in there, there should be a process. You should feel like you're a part of a system. If you feel like it's kind of laissez-faire, just kind of do whatever, I'm out. Personally, you got to have a good process, or I'm through with you.
Gentleman in front, and then going back.
Hey, Gustavis.
Hello.
I appreciate all the insights you guys were given. Really, I would like to hear from each of you, based on your experience in the financial space, and then also just your knowledge of that space as well. What would be, if you could go back, what would you do in your mid-20s in today's current society, and all the stuff that you know now, to best set yourself up for success?
So I'll jump on that. So it was best successful. Yeah, I'm gonna repeat it. Oh, okay.
The question that was whispered to the panelists
He's an humble guy. He's humble.
was if you were in your 20s right now, which for y'all brothers is a long time ago for some of y'all.
Yeah.
Including myself. If you were in your 20s, what advice would you do differently, or what advice would you give to somebody in their 20s?
I'll say it real quick. Put it on autopilot. Pick a number you're comfortable with. You won't miss it. And you're saving. Thank you. You save on autopilot. Take advantage of the matching and all that stuff. I see a lot of people.
Matching what?
My goodness, matching
You
for.
gotta explain these things.
This is why you're the moderator, right? Yeah. So, matching is where your 401k provider, your retirement plan is actually throwing in money. You put $1 in, I'll put $1 in. Well, if I said that, you'd put all your money in there, right? To get extra free. That's a free benefit there. So take advantage of those things early and just keep moving forward from there. That's the easy thing I would say to do.
I would say, and I'll give you context, I would say make money your hobby or invest in your hobby. And the reason why I say that is because we're at a black event, right? For me, I didn't have a lot of support from my parents. They were living paycheck to paycheck, right? So by the time it was time for me to go to work, I was spending my money on the bills that I had accumulated, on stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, right? Because no one ever taught me before I got into this business. Just to set context, up until last year, I had a book of business that was about $1 billion, 450 households. And what I learned from my most successful clients is they made money, they hoarded money, they made money their hobby so that they could live debt-free, right? So they didn't have to worry about getting a car financed, they didn't have to worry about college for their kids. They hoarded money, they made it their hobby. They didn't buy new cars, they drove cars for 20 years. I remember the first day that I was in my branch, a guy came in, looked like he was homeless, right? Looked like he's just come off the street, $6 million in his account. Because the material things weren't important to him. The things that were important to him was freedom, being able to have all his bills paid and not stress at the end of the month, because they made money their hobby and they saved it. That's what I would say to anyone 20 years old.
Kevin, do you want to add anything?
So before I went into finance, I was a teacher, and there was something I learned as an advisor too. So the first question I'm going to ask you, because I said ask questions first, did you mean professionally or did you mean financially? Because you just said
Yes.
Going back to the 20s. Financially, okay, clarifying question. So what I would do, there were two things that I would do differently going back to my 20s. I would avoid lifestyle inflation within reason. I say within reason for a very specific reason. So for me, I got my first apartment. I was in Dallas, and again, this was like 2012-ish, so apartments were cheap back then. But I was like, hey, I just got out of college, got the first thing I could afford, and then the very next year, my salary went up, and I was like, all right, I inched up. I didn't get the nicest thing I could afford, but I was like, we're gonna move up just a little bit. And I got, nicer furniture. I didn't ball out. I was saving and everything, but like, I didn't need to do that. And it cost me like an extra $300 or $400 a month. Again, that's $400 times 12. I could have invested. Where could I have been, times another 3 or 4 years? It was like every year or so, I kept just inching up just a bit where I really didn't have to. It didn't cost me, but I could have like really been further along. And I feel like we all do. It's like, hey, I'm 25 now. I'm 35 now. Like I should have a grill because that's just what you do as an old man. We do it. Yeah, I should be into whiskey now just because. But it's like I have these things because it's just what you do at this age. But I say within reason because no, I should not have had an air mattress, and I didn't. But you just feel like that is one thing is like you keep moving up and it's like, I need all new things. I need all these things just because it's what you're supposed to do at this age. The other thing that is financially related, but we don't really talk about is networking. There were so many times where I just should have not been as shy and I just stayed in the back of the room because I'm a natural introvert, which sounds weird because y'all see me on stage now. But I feel like I should just do things on my own and it costs me more money and time doing it on my own as opposed to networking that I really could have advanced my career, which would have advanced my salary, which would have advanced my 401k. So those are the two things I would have gone back and done in my 20s.
And I'll add to that, and I'm gonna go non-financial for a second. I think in your 20s is the perfect time to figure out what you're good at and to work really hard to build a good reputation in that field. Because then you're going to be on a launch pad for success. There was a card that I got when I graduated from business school. And the card was a Maya Angelou quote, and I remember it to this day. It said, don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love to do and do them so well that people can't take their eyes off. I believe if you are passionate about something that you're really good at, that you can't help but be successful financially in terms of income. The rest of what you do with it, these guys have talked about a lot. But I think finding that passion, being good at it. If your goal is to be an entrepreneur in your 20s, you can afford to go take a pay cut to go work in an industry that might set you up for entrepreneurship down the road. So I'd be really flexible with what I'm doing. I'd be really focused on my career, making sure I make the right moves. And education too. Like I went back and got an MBA full time to improve my career aspects.
I love that you just said that. You made me think of this. So I have these wristbands on. I've actually had these on for about 10 years. And one of them says, "Success is my duty." And people used to like question me about that. And I would say, I believe that's the most important thing, having a successful relationship with your spouse, having a successful relationship. I think success has turned into this real financial word, but it's really just accomplishing goals. And so everything that you said, start specializing and finding something and being successful at it, huge momentum driver in your 20s to carry you throughout the rest of your life.
One thing that absolutely changed my life in my 20s that it didn't hit me until I was 25 or so. So I started BuildingBread, the company I still run today, in 2010 at my college dorm room. I've written books. I've been able to do things like this that is still wild that I'm still doing it 14 years later. We talked about passion and being really, really good at something and like really sticking to it because of passion, because you want to do it. I'm going to tell you now, whether you are 20 or not, it just hit me one day that just because you are passionate at something does not mean it is going to be easy. I think there's a misconception. Oh, I'm passionate at that, so I'm gifted at it. And then when you hit that first barrier or you realize that, oh, this is not easy, that passion is supposed to just make it easy and that things is just, you're supposed to skate by. And that's not always the case. So it is still going to be difficult. Magic doors aren't going to open because you are passionate or you are talented at it. It's still going to be really effing hard at times. So it's like, know that.
The passion keeps you in it.
Right.
When it's hard.
Yeah.
You'll know if you like something or you're passionate about anything, no matter what age, if it gets real hard and you just say, it's not for me, then it wasn't a passion.
All right, so the hour is drawing near. We're going to go to our last question, and then we're going to close with closing remarks from each of the panelists. Last question right here.
Hello, all. My name is Jeffrey Clark, and this is my question. So as black men, I know we're talking a lot about investing and getting our money up, which is amazing. But I'm curious about how we secure that legacy and create systems of succession for our family.
Securing the bag.
Are you saying are we or how?
Yeah, like how? Like I mean, what's your take on that? On securing the financial legacy that we've built up or that we're building, right, for the long term, and then going ahead and creating systems of succession for our family, so that wealth can be maintained down the generations. Yeah,
this is a great question. So if you Google Kevin Matthews generational wealth, there's a picture of me and my son for an article I did for Business Insider on how my son, who is now age 6, has more money than me when I was in high school, and I had a job, a whole job. So I said that to say, yes, and what I did is what I wish I would have did. When I said that whole 10-year quote, I meant that. So like my son, both my son and my daughter, who are 6 and 4 now, my whole objective now is they will never have to worry about what if dad invested in Nike or Netflix. Nike's trash now. Apple or Netflix or Tesla back then. They ain't got to worry because I did it already. It's stuff like that. So I've already started their 529, their custodial accounts. All that stuff is already set up, and we're investing small amounts because, thanks to Fidelity, I don't have to, y'all should pay me for that. Because college still got to be paid for. Right. But I've already started that, and we've already got the trust and the will and all that stuff set up. So now we are having those, because they're of age, to start having those conversations. But the main thing is, because retirement and college and stuff is expensive, we have started now to have those things set up. And then you have to have those conversations, because what good is it for me to have saved all this money, invested all this money, and then have kids that don't understand basic math or how to handle that money? Right. So again, we'll see how this works, because 6 and 4, right? So we have to keep having that conversation, but that's already started.
And you mentioned a key aspect of that as well. So not only starting the savings accounts for them early, but also planning in the event that you're not here, right? Yep. So that goes to creating trust, right? To make sure that they're taken care of if you're no longer here. Making sure you have the appropriate amount of life insurance, right? To take care of the needs that you would have taken care of, but now you're not here, right? So you have to think generationally when it comes to taking care of the family.
And if I could add one thing, your kids got to know where money comes from. right?
It doesn't grow on
And
trees?
a lot of these examples, money came from me as the parent giving it to them.
Yeah.
Money comes from work, it comes from entrepreneurship, it comes from investing. And what is money for? Money's not just for spending, that's what they see. Like, I think in households, you should have 3 buckets for kids to understand, whether it be a physical coin jar or whether it be just mentally.
Yep.
Money's for spending, of course, but it's also for saving, it's for investing, it's for charity, it's for a bunch of other things. And I think kids have to really understand that, because otherwise we will have saved all the money, given them all the inheritance, and they're going to blow it if they don't understand how to maintain it.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to our final closing remarks, whoever wants to go first. And in your closing remarks, please give whatever websites or hashtags or social media links. Go ahead and give those as well.
Oh, so just in close, I thought you were asking.
Closing remarks.
Okay. I would just say that as far as I was just thinking about that last question too, but start early and stay consistent. It's 2 things I would say the most successful folks in finance that I work around are, they're consistent and they're effective. The consistency will keep you compounding and growing, and the effectiveness is your willingness to get better. All right? If you're not going to educate yourself, then get somebody that is passionate about doing financial planning. Some of the, you got folks here, lots of resources, Fidelity, BuildingBread, right? And so get with those folks and say, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't care as much. I care, but I want somebody to do it. Have them do it. But if you're not going to have them do it, then be prepared to educate yourself. Right. And spend that time and invest it. It's going to happen one of those 2 ways. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to be staring at that tree, and it's still going to be just as far in 10 or 20 years from now, and that's not a great feeling.
And Goose, in closing, are there any websites?
LinkedIn, just type in Robert Goose Gustavis. You'll find me there. Please link up with me. I'd love to chat.
Yeah, for me, just take it one step at a time. There's a lot of stuff out there. I know people get drowned in so much information. You got the economy, you got taxes, you got investing. It's a lot of stuff, all right? So what I would do is like drill into one thing at a time. If you want to do it quarterly, if you're super organized, feel free to do that, right? Spend a quarter understanding your credit score. Spend a quarter just sitting down and drilling in investments so that you can like break things down and understand it and like move on to the next thing. And then have that automated. I think that's really important too. So you don't have to spend all time just understanding all of those pieces. So like understand it, get deep, have it automated, move on to the next thing. And then hire out, right, for the things or automate those things that you can have in the background as you move on to the next thing, so you can really maximize your time and focus on the things that you need to focus on. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. In terms of like where you can follow me, please tag me in whatever pictures and stuff you took, because my wife gets mad when I don't, she didn't get to see pictures and stuff. But you can follow me on all things social media at BuildingBread and at buildingbread.com. I drop videos every single week on YouTube. So if you like me explaining things and talking like this is what I do on video all the time.
Nice. So a bit of closing advice. I would say start now, right? If you hadn't already started, start now.
Start yesterday.
Start yesterday. Make sure you dive in. Don't spend more time planning your vacations than you do your finances, right? Make sure you dive in. Make sure if it's in your wheelhouse, make money your hobby, right? You should know where your money is. You should know what your money is doing. Feel free to tag me on LinkedIn. Fidelity has a website. It's fidelity.com/black wealth. There's a whole host of information there that is very valuable. So I would tell you to go to that website, dive in. There's a lot there. Even there's an article that came out yesterday about how the elections may affect the economy, right? So there's a lot of great information there. So that would be my advice.
All right, I'm gonna give you all my socials. So at Momentum Advice on Twitter, at Momentum Advisors on Instagram. I have a podcast called The Momentum Advisors. It's on all the platforms. Every week we talk about wealth building and entrepreneurship in the Black community. And my company's website is momentum-advisors.com. I know I went really fast, but momentum-advisors.com. Can we give a round of applause to our panel?